Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. My name is Sarah and today I have a book haul for you. So if you watched my last book haul video back in like May, I think it was, you probably had heard that I had been planning on going on a conditional book buying ban until September, and by conditional, I was gonna go ahead and purchase any sort of like sequels or anything that were already out of books that I had read, or if something came in Allcrate or Book of the Month, that wasn't gonna count towards my book buying ban because I was gonna keep those subscriptions, so those books would still like obviously arrive, and you know, I wouldn't ban those things. Well, friends, it is September, okay? I don't know if any of you know, but September came early, alright? Like this month, this is not August. This is September. Last month, not July. September, okay? September came early. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. 2020 was a weird year. 2021 is getting even weirder. Months are just coming early, okay? One of us here is living in a delusion. Can't be me. Can't be me. September has been 3 months long. Okay. Glad we cleared that up, that I did not break my book buying ban. Okay. I have 10 books here that, like I said, didn't come in a subscription box. I'm not going to really talk about those books that came in there. I'm going to talk about books that I picked up. There's 5 that I picked up on just like an impulse internet order, and then 5 others that I picked up when I went to a couple of indie bookstores in Chicago. So I'm going to go through the 5 that I impulse purchased on the internet first, because I ended up acquiring those first. We're just going to do this in chronological order, okay? So one of the ones that I bought is Sleeping Giants by Sylvan Newell. This is the first book in the Themis Files, something, that name. Series. This is a science fiction novel. It is surprisingly short. I was not anticipating it to be this short. It is a kind of an interesting book. It's told entirely in like interview format. I don't know if you can see like the bold and then the regular text. So it's entirely told in interview format, and it follows a woman, Rose, and when she was a child, she was riding her bike and kind of fell in this like weird sinkhole thing and fell into this giant metal hand. And then she grows up, and it's several years later, and she is kind of this lead scientist trying to figure out the mystery that has yet to be solved on what this giant hand in the ground is, and kind of like what is connected to it, what, you know, everything that's going on kind of behind it, where it came from. And while she's really starting to dig into this and kind of make progress in figuring out what's going on, there is a nefarious team that is kind of threatening and working against her. And so I've heard that this book is really fascinating, and it's really fast paced, and that the interview format of the story is actually really interesting to read. I've read like a bunch of smudges all over this. I've read a couple books that have like that interview aspect incorporated into the story. I've never read one that's entirely in interview format, so I'm kind of interested to see how I end up liking that. But I am quite excited to get around to this because people who have read it, I've heard most of them really enjoy it. I also picked up Sunlight Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. I actually saw this recommended by A Frolic Through Fiction, who had this recommended to her by Samantha Shannon. So this one actually sounds super interesting. For whatever reason, like the kind of premise behind it reminds me of The Starless Sea, which is one of my all-time favorite books. Actually, it is like my all-time favorite book. And I think the reason why is because there's supposed to be like layers of like different like worlds and stories in this like tower, and then that kind of like theme makes me think of like the various different stories that all come together in the Starless Sea. I don't know, maybe my brain is just making weird logical leaps and connecting things that shouldn't be connected. Not like that hasn't happened before, but I'm really excited about this one. I'm actually going to read the back of it because I feel like it just is going to kind of explain like part of the synopsis better than me just like trying to tell it to you in my own words. So we're gonna do that. So it says, mild-mannered headmaster Thomas Senlin prefers his adventures to be safely contained within the pages of a book. So when he loses his new bride shortly after embarking on the honeymoon of their dreams, he is ill-prepared for the trouble that follows. To find her, Senlin must ascend the Tower of Babel, a world of geniuses and tyrants, of luxury and menace, of unusual animals and mysterious machines. He must endure betrayal, assassination attempts, and the illusions of the tower. And if he hopes to ever see his wife again, he will have to do more than just survive. This quiet man of letters must become a man of action. And this is the first book in a series. I'm not sure how many books are in the series. I have not heard too much about it. Like I said, I heard it mentioned on a Frolic Through Fiction's channel, and then I do know that Samantha Shannon really loved it. So, and I love Samantha Shannon, so I am very excited about this one. And then the next book that I also picked up is one that I have heard quite a bit about on BookTube, and that is Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. So I have not read anything by Seanan McGuire. I know his other books, the Wayward Children series, is really popular on BookTube, and this one kind of is like secondary to that in terms of popularity, but this one is the one that has intrigued me the most because it sounds like a fantasy thriller horror novel, and I'm just really interested in it. So to my understanding, there is like this dude that makes these twins. He like fabricates them somehow, and they're called Roger and Dodger. One of them is really good with language, and the other is really good with numbers. And so this dude's goal is to kind of raise them to become gods. And it just sounds really fascinating. I've heard that this book just like messes with your head and is super like twisty, turny, kind of like just crazy. I don't know, it's a standalone, and I am just really intrigued by it. I've heard just really good things, and that it is bizarre. So, and I love weird stories, so I'm looking forward to it. Then another book that has become quite popular on book social media, particularly BookTok and Book Twitter, that is The Atlas Six by Olive E. Blake. This is actually an independently published novel, so it was pretty exciting to kind of see an indie published book kind of become big. So this is kind of, it sounds like more of a dark academia fantasy story, which is super exciting. So this is the first in a series. This is the only one out as far as I'm aware, and basically there's like this secret international society that houses all of the world's like knowledge on magic, and so then every 10 years there are 6 people that are recruited to kind of become the next generation of curators of this library of knowledge. So then this year is like the next like 10-year anniversary or whatever, so next set of recruits need to be picked up, and Atlas Blakely recruits a team of 6 that he then is going to kind of have compete in order to become the curators of the library. And I've just heard that like a lot of people really love the writing style and the characters, and I've heard other people say that this ends up becoming a book that they just have not seen really done before or done very recently. So I'm really intrigued to see kind of where this story ends up going, and I'm hoping that I love it as much as everybody else. And then the last book that I impulse purchased in this little group of books that I ordered online is Rabbits by Terry Miles. So I actually just kind of stumbled across this. I think somebody that I follow on Goodreads had added it to their like list of books that they want to read, and of course like the cover kind of interested me. It's like very brightly colored and the back and everything. But then I came across it at Barnes & Noble one day and picked it up and actually read like the synopsis, and this sounds like right up my alley. It kind of has to do with like weird conspiracy theories, or like the idea of conspiracy theories, and like don't even get me started on how fascinated I am by how like bizarre conspiracy theories get. I don't know, I feel like this is one where I also have to read the synopsis because it's just so like the synopsis, it sounds so bizarre and like there's several things going on, and I'm just gonna read it to you. So it says, it's an average workday. You've been wrapped up in a task and you check the clock when you come up for air. 4:44 p.m. You check your email and 44 unread messages have built up. With a shock, you realize the date is April 4th, 4/4, which by the way is my birthday, so it's meant to be. I meant to read this book. And when you get in your car to drive home, your odometer reads 44,444. Coincidence, or have you just seen the edge of a rabbit hole? Rabbits is a mysterious alternate reality game so vast it uses the entire world as its canvas. Since the game started in 1959, 10 iterations have appeared and 9 winners have been declared. The identities of these winners are unknown. So is their reward, which is whispered to be NSA or CIA recruitment, vast wealth, immortality, or perhaps even the key to the secrets of the universe itself. But the deeper you get, the more dangerous the game becomes. Players have died in the past, and the body count is rising. And the 11th round is about to begin. Enter Kay, a rabbit's obsessive who has been trying to find a way into the game for years. That path opens when Kay is approached by billionaire Alan Scarpio, rumored to be the winner of the 6th iteration. Scarpio says that something has gone wrong with the game and that Kay needs to fix it before 11 starts, or the whole world will pay the price. 5 days later, Scarpio is declared missing. 2 weeks after that, Kay blows the deadline. 11 begins, and suddenly the fate of the entire universe is at stake. So, very, like, sci-fi, conspiracy, alternate reality, all packed into this book, and I am super, super excited for it. Like I said, I haven't really seen anybody talking about it, but I am very, very excited to get to it. And then about a month or two ago, I visited a couple of... And then about a month or two ago, or should I say very early September, and then about a month ago, or should I say mid-September, I visited a couple of indie bookstores, and I'm a sucker for indie bookstores. I like just want to support all of them that I stumble in and want to buy something at every single one, and so of course I had to buy some books, and in the first one that I stopped at, I ended up picking up Born and Dead Astronauts by Jason Vandermeer. Now, I did not realize that this is actually like a duology. Born is the first one, Dead Astronauts is the second one. Obviously, like, I read the backs of both of these when I was in the store, and when I read the back of Dead Astronauts, I was like, huh, that sounds like it's related to Born. But I wasn't like, wow, that's probably the sequel. Maybe I should wait to pick it up after I read Born so that I make sure that I'm actually like interested in the story and continuing the story. I'm just like, huh, okay, this sounds interesting, and wow, it sounds related to this book. Like, I'm just gonna pick them both up because, wow, pretty cover, and yeah, I want to spend money. I don't know what was going on in my head, because usually I try not to pick up an entire series or multiple books in a series until I read the first one and know that I'm actually enjoying it. But I'm not too terribly worried because I have really enjoyed the works of Jeff Vandermeer that I have read so far, and so I'm anticipating that I will enjoy both of these. So basically in Born, we follow this young girl who lives in this kind of like post-apocalyptic destroyed like city, and she's kind of like a scavenger for, I don't know, parts, food, I'm not quite sure, but she one day stumbles across this like weird green lumpy like mass. She doesn't know if it's a plant or an animal, but it like exudes this like positive like comforting feeling or whatever, and so she picks it up and takes it home, and pretty soon that starts to cause problems, and it sounds like there's a lot of like hallucinatory things happening, which doesn't surprise me because Annihilation dealt a lot with like weird visual things that like you really weren't sure if they were actually happening or if your main characters are hallucinating, and so I'm just really excited for this because Vandermeer's writing and just his stories and everything that he creates is really bizarre, and I have already said this before, but I love weird books and weird stories and weird visual things and stories, and how like it kind of borders on, is this really happening or is it all in the character's head, so I'm really excited for this. And then in the second store that I went to, I ended up picking up my last 3 books that I have for this haul. The first one being The House in the Dark of the Woods by Laird Hunt. This is much shorter than what I was anticipating it to be. It's kind of like a little baby book. It's so small. It's cute. The cover's, you know, questionable in terms of cuteness. It's kind of creepy, but that's the whole point because this is a horror novel. I heard Kat over at Paperback Dreams talking about it. She's a big horror reader, and so the way she described it reminded me of the way that she kind of described I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and I had read that book like last year based on her recommendation. Absolutely loved it, and so I'm hoping that this has like a similar weird, like just bizarre craziness to it, based on how she described it. Like I said, who knows, I may be like connecting dots that aren't there, but we will see after I read it. And so again, this is another one where I'm actually going to read the synopsis. I try really hard not to do that, but some of these just have like either very nuanced synopses or very vague synopses, and I just want to make sure that I give you guys the best understanding of the book that I have before, you know, obviously I actually read it. And so this is one of those where it's actually pretty vague. So that's why I'm going to read it. And it says, in this magical and frightening tale of colonial America, nothing is quite as it seems. A wife gone missing may in fact have fled her stifling and abusive home. The inviting splendor of a new American wilderness may in fact be an orchestration by a malevolent force. Women who like both voice and sovereignty may seek freedom at the price of damnation. Set against the eerie, dangerous world of bygone New England, In the House in the Dark of the Woods is a historical encounter unlike any you've read in a novel you'll not soon forget. I think this is another one that has things going on where you're like, is the character actually seeing this? Like, is this actually happening, or are they imagining or hallucinating things? And so I will get back to you on whether I like it or not once I read it, but I am definitely hoping that it is as like on the same level of weird, for lack of a better term, mindfuckery that I'm Thinking of Ending Things is. And then I also picked up The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. So this is kind of a gothic mystery novel. It sounds like it's a pretty slow burn mystery novel. I saw Meg with Books talking about this a couple months ago, and I was really interested in it. She absolutely loved it. And so basically this is set in the 1600s, and it all takes place on like this ship, as we've kind of got several different characters that are all traveling across the ocean for different reasons. One of our main characters is a detective, and he's on the ship and on his way to be tried for a crime that he may or may not have committed, and then he has his kind of assistant there. And then there's also a noblewoman who seems quite secretive. In the first night on their ship, some weird stuff starts happening, and kind of amongst all the weird things that are happening at night, they hear a voice that tells them that 3 impossible things are going to happen before the end of this journey. And I'm gonna read this part. It says, "Suddenly passengers hear a terrible voice whispering to them in the darkness, promising 3 unholy miracles followed by a slaughter. First, an impossible pursuit, second, an impossible theft, and third, an impossible murder." And so it's up to this detective, his assistant bodyguard, and then the noblewoman to kind of figure out what the heck is going on. Do they have a demon on board with them, or is it something that's not like supernatural or whatever? And yeah, I am just really interested in this. Like, it just sounds gothic and creepy and a perfect like fall read. And like I said, Meg with Books liked it. She'd also read the other book by Turton. I think it's The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. That one a lot of people like. She liked this one actually better than the Evelyn Hardcastle one. So, and I haven't read Evelyn Hardcastle. I've heard mixed reviews on it, but I am very interested in this one. Then the last book that I picked up is Allswell by Mona Awad. This is Mona Awad's most recent release. I read Bunny by Awad earlier this year. Absolutely loved it. For the most part, I loved how bizarre it was. There was a couple of things that, you know, I questioned the logic and the like kind of believability behind it, but overall I just really loved her writing style and kind of like the general atmosphere of the book, and so I'm really excited about this one. So in this book we are following a college theater director who used to be like a burgeoning actress who had an accident that now causes her a lot of chronic pain, and so she had to step down from being an actress, and this is why she's a director now. She really wants to do Shakespeare's All's Well That Ends Well, and her students are rebelling against her and pushing for Macbeth. And so she's kind of reaching her breaking point of between, you know, her students not listening to her and her dealing with her loss of her career that was just starting to take off, and then this chronic pain that is, you know, following her every step. And then one day 3 mysterious people kind of appear and tell her all sorts of things about her past that like no one should know, especially strangers, and then tell her that they will be able to get her students to fall in line and kind of give them what's coming to them, and then also bring to light her pain that nobody really believes is actually like real. Nobody believes her. And so this sounds like there's gonna be kind of some similar weird stuff happening that like happened in Bunny, just like bizarre psychological horror, which is one of my favorite genres of horror. I love psychological horror, and so I'm just really interested to see how this turns out. I haven't heard anybody talking about this one yet, but like I said, I enjoyed Bunny, and so I'm hoping that this one is actually even better. So those are the 10 books that I picked up over the course of a bizarrely long September that came quite early this year. You know, I'm just gonna keep telling myself that because yeah, you guys can't tell me otherwise, okay? I didn't break my book buying ban, I swear. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you read any of these books. I'd be really interested to hear what your opinions are of them. Hopefully you liked them. But thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!